Hey traders, Jason here from Leavitt Brothers. Hope you're well. Most of the videos I post here at YouTube are what the state of the market is, what my view of the state of the market is, or I do occasional educational videos about recent trades we've done, how I use certain indicators, go off topic a little bit. Today I'm going to look forward and talk through some charts I'm looking to trade over the next week or so. So instead of discussing past trades, I'm going to discuss potential future trades. But for the record, some of these have been discussed on the Leavitt Brothers message board, so some subscribers are already in, and some I'm already in with starter positions. But because I'm looking to add to positions, I still consider them playable even if you're not in yet. Okay, so let's get to them. All right, here is Domo. I've covered this one in a past video, but it just triggered a new trade. So quick review is that we had a nice W bottom MACD cross, kiss here at the same time, the stochastic cycle up. Everything lined up with this one. Looks really, really great. So it moved up, moved sideways in a range for, what is this, about 8 days, and then on Friday it broke out. This is one that was discussed on the message board at Leavitt Brothers, so there are many subscribers at Leavitt Brothers who are already in. But I still think it's playable, even though Friday was a big up day. Okay, so what I have here is I have the daily chart here, and I have the hourly chart. Okay, I tend to get a bias from a higher time frame chart, and then I zoom in with a shorter chart to get signals. Okay, so on the daily chart, the MACD histogram just put in a bigger candle. Okay, so first of all, it's trending up, and then it put in a bigger candle, and the stochastic crossed up. So my bias for this is to the upside. Come over here to the hourly chart, and you could see, while it was in this consolidation range, you have a lower low, higher low, so we got a positive divergence. We get a cross here. Stock moves sideways. We have a resistance level here, which is really nice to work with. And then on Friday, you can see that the MACD started to separate itself, so the histogram started to grow. But just towards the end of the day, the stochastic started to cycle down. So what I'm looking for here, if you're not already in, is that if you get, if you consider the range to be this, if you get a little bit of a pullback early next week, say Monday, first half of Monday, as long as the MACD histogram could continue to trend up, and at least stay in positive territory, if the stochastic can cycle down and then recross and go up, that would be a signal to add to an existing position or establish a new position. Okay, so that's what I'm looking to do with it. I'm already in, but I will add to a position if this sequence plays out. The sequence is MACD stays trending up and the stochastic can cycle down and re-signal. All right, CLVS. Let's see here. So we got a bottom, we got a cross here, we got a pattern that formed here. So same resistance, not same resistance, but same highs create horizontal resistance, higher highs. So we got a little ascending triangle pattern. It broke out. Now it's trading in a range here. Okay, so the MACD is pointing up, so my bias is to the upside. Zoom in with the hourly chart just to give you an idea where we are. That's the triangle pattern that's drawn on the chart on the left. So what we have here is with the MACD is pointing down, stochastic just cycled up. So what I'd like to see here is I'd like to see enough sideways movement for the MACD to have time to curl down and to cycle up and trigger while the stochastic stays in the pointing up direction. Now, whether that happens or not, I don't know. The MACD moves a lot slower than the stochastic, so chances are if this moves sideways for another day or two, which is entirely possible considering the big candle here, it might need another candle or two to rest before it tries to break out. What'll happen is, let me gotta get rid of some of these. All right, what'll happen is if we need enough time for the MACD to come down a cycle down and then cross back up, the stochastic is probably going to move up, come back down, and then cycle, because it could take 3-4 days for the MACD to move, but it only takes like 1 day for the stochastic to cycle when you're looking at the hourly time frame. So that's what I'd be looking at here. It's a biotech stock, so I'm a little bit more of a stickler with the entry. Look for enough sideways movement that allows the MACD to come down and cross. And if that happens, the stochastic is probably going to go up, down, and then cycle again. So if this could cross here at the same time this can come down and cycle here, then we'll have an entry somewhere over here, and then hopefully, pattern here. Hopefully the pattern can resolve up, and if it resolves up, then we should have a move up to like 12. All right. CODEX. This is another one that's been talked about on the Leavitt Brothers message board. So we got a cross. Oops, let me get here. All right, so we got a cross over here. Same time, stochastic pointing up. We draw a trend line over here, trend line here. Not the greatest chart pattern. I traded chart patterns for years and years and years, so this is not a chart pattern that would really jump out at me. Nevertheless, you can easily draw trend lines there. It broke out, not last week, but the week before. Spent all last week trading in a somewhat sloppy pattern. There's no obvious support and resistance. Maybe a little bit of support with the 8 EMA, but certainly no resistance on a near-term basis with the daily chart. But still, what we have here is we have the MACD, which is trending up. Okay, so bias is to the upside. I want to zoom in with an hourly chart, try and find a trade. Just to give you a perspective here, this is the triangle pattern. Stock moves up, and then last week it did this. We do have some resistance here. Okay, you can argue that there's an ascending triangle pattern. So we have right here, MACD is in the process of crossing up. We do have a couple positive histogram candles there, so that's crossing up. And right over here, the stochastic is crossed up too, and it's at a high level. So if this thing breaks out next week, I would consider it to be playable. I don't know when earnings are. I haven't looked yet. But assuming earnings aren't on the horizon and aren't an issue, I do consider this playable right now if it takes out resistance and moves up. Now, going forward, let me delete some of this stuff. If the stock can come up to here, possibly get rejected by the previous high, and the MACD here could get enough separation, if the two lines can separate enough, that would give the stochastic enough time that even if the stock drifted back, the stochastic would have enough time to come back, re-signal, and then that'll be another entry. Okay, so you get the first move up. Okay, and if the MACD can get enough separation over here, then even if we get a subsequent pullback right here, the fact that we have separation over here gives the stochastic time to cycle down and re-signal, and then that would be a second entry for a possible breakout through the high. And considering the volatility, this move, if I look over here at the daily chart, this move went from like 10 to 14, and it's now been consolidating here. If we get this type of a sequence where it goes up, gets rejected by the high, and then enough time is spent so the stochastic can cycle down, then we're looking at a breakout and a possible move up to 20. That's what I'm eyeing. Who knows if it plays out? I'm certainly not going to manage a position assuming it's going to play out, but that would be a nice sequence if it did. All right, here's COMM. You could argue that the stock broke out last Thursday, Friday from this like falling pattern. Okay, so we got a cross here, MACD moving up. You got a little kiss here, which coincided with this, and stochastic cycled down and crossed up. So we got a continuation of the move. Then it traded in a pattern here. So then this came down and kissed, and you can see we have two candles to end the week that are positive. So it looks like we're going to do a kiss here, and the stochastic came down, did a little double bottom, and crossed up here. So really nice sequence for the MACD to distance itself and form a bigger pattern, and the stochastic crossed up. Bias per the daily chart is to the upside. Zoom in on the on the hourly chart, you can see maybe a resistance level here. Stock broke out. We have MACD pointing up, trending up, plus we have bigger candles here, so we're getting a little bit of acceleration. Stochastic pointing up. So I think this is a stock that, unless this, if it gaps up big, then it's an entirely different type of trade. But if this thing is But this is playable, as far as I'm concerned, playable early Monday morning, as long as it doesn't gap up a bunch and destroy what's going on here. And like I explained in the last chart, if you get a move up to here and then it cycles down, as long as the MACD stays crossed up, that'll give that little pullback there, if it happens, will give stochastic enough time to cycle down, re-trigger, and then that'll be an entry to add to a position. Looking at the daily chart, I tend to look at chart patterns and do measured moves. So we have a move from the low 8s up to like 11. So I would measure up from the low, I would probably measure up to about 13, but we have to watch out for the 200-day here. So I'd be targeting 13, but I'd be aware of 12 as a potential place that sellers come in. All right, here is EQM. And I'm going to talk a little bit faster here because this video is getting a little bit long. So we have a nice pattern here, cross, one more move down while the MACD stays crossed up. We got a cycle down here from the stochastic, so everything's pointing up. We got a pattern that forms here, and then it moved up, and now we have another pattern here. Okay, so the MACD pointing up, that forms my bias. I'm looking to go long, looking over to the hourly chart. Here's this pattern. Okay, now we have another pattern here. Depends on where you draw your lines, but we have another pattern here. MACD is coming down. It hasn't yet signaled. Stochastic is moving up. So if it takes a few more days for this to happen, then that's enough time for the stochastic to cycle down and then re-trigger. So it'd be great if this thing re-triggered here at the same time the MACD crossed up here. If this thing moved sideways, that would give us, that would be the entry. Okay, your bias comes from the daily chart, and again, bias comes from the daily chart. Then I zoom in with a shorter time frame and look for the actual entry. All right, I'm going to look at one more here. Let's skip through. Let's do this one. All right, here is Sting. So we have MACD cross here. We have a dip here, which corresponds to stochastic cycling down, stochastic cycling down, stochastic cycled down here when we got the first cross, or at least a continuation. So stock moved up, W pattern, stock moved up. Now it's consolidating over here. Last Tuesday was a big day. The next 3 days all were not inside days of each other, but they were inside of Tuesday. Okay, so stock moves up. Notice the volume right here is gigantic. Now the stock is resting. So MACD pointing up, biases to the upside. Zoom in on the hourly chart. You can draw trend lines and say, hey, some sort of symmetrical triangle pattern is forming. It's great, gives you perspective. The MACD is pointing down, stochastic pointing up. So what I'm looking for, and I'm going to delete those trend lines, what I'm looking for is if MACD can come down, cross, while the stock moves sideways. Okay, so if that happens, if this thing can move sideways for a day or two, entirely possible considering what's going on over here. There's nothing that says it's got to break out right now. That'll be enough time for the stochastic to cycle down and trigger. So if we can get a cross here at the same time that the stochastic moves up and then cycles down, that'd be a great 1-2 punch. It's a shipping stock. I hate shipping stocks. I don't trade them well, and I don't think they act well. So I'm going to be a little bit more of a stickler with my entry. Tighter stop for me. I'm not going to take a big chance just because I have a bad past with shipping stocks. All right, so that's it for now. To kind of review, I get a bias from a higher time frame chart, then I zoom in with a shorter time frame chart to time an entry. Okay, overlaid on this is my experience as a hardcore chart pattern trader that I use to give me some perspective on the charts. Like, has a stock run up too much? Does it need to do some backing and filling? Those types of things. All right, thanks for listening. You can follow my YouTube channel by clicking the red subscribe button. Check out Leavitt Brothers, where we offer market analysis and trading ideas to the financial community. There's a link below. Also, check out my mini masterclass in trading. It's free. There's a link below for that too. All right, see you next time. Have a good weekend.